So welcome everyone to True Sky Astrology with myself, Zofia Hausman, and Lizz Bierman and Steph Orefice. Did I pronounce that right? Orefice. So this Zoom tonight is an opportunity to unhook from an astrological system whose time has come and begin aligning with the true celestial positions, awakening to your true natal essence. So before we start, I want to hand it over to Lizz, who is going to open and just prepare the space for us to really drop in. So Lizz, if you're there.
I am here. I'm so happy to be with everyone. I know that we have been talking about this a lot, and it just feels like the right time. So I just want everyone on the live call and also anyone who is watching later, we're just going to drop in a little bit and create a sacred space for all the information to come in so we can align with what's going on inside and outside of us. So take a few deep breaths. I work specifically with archangels and ascended masters and my higher self. So if that's comfortable for you, you can call them in as well. And we're just going to create a beautiful bubble around this space and this information to allow the most divine wisdom to come in, the most supportive and clear and open. And if we feel safe and ready, we can open our hearts to a new understanding, or the most ancient understanding, with our internal constellations and the sky above us. We create this protective space for all who's in it to be guided and cared for.
Just mute.
Now, and now we're going to seal this space up. Thank you, everybody who is here right now and everyone who's coming on. If everyone wants to start introducing themselves in the chat, tell us where you are, where you're signing in from. If you have any questions, you can put them in the chat as well. And I will be navigating the chat and I'll share the questions with Steph as she's talking. And Zofia will be guiding the whole journey for all of us. So thank you all for being here. I am Lizz. I am in Jacksonville, Florida right now, and I'm just so blessed to have everyone on board today.
So why don't we begin by saying a little bit about ourselves, and I'd really like to start with Steph. She's the True Sky wisdom keeper here. So would you just like to tell us about you and your journey?
I sure can. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for being curious, being open, and just receptive to new information. As you know, my name is Stephanie, or maybe you don't know, my name is Stephanie from Starkeeper Astrology. I have been a long-term stargazer since a child, always very connected with cosmic energies, loving the moon every phase, watching the stars, and just being the type of kid who would much rather lay on their back and watch the sky than to engage in small talk or anything. I was always lost in my own world. And so during my awakening journey, I realized that I can harness the energy of the sky and understand and look into myself so much more than a hobby. And that's when I decided that I was going to pursue astrology. And so I did study astrology, and I even took a course because I felt that the validation of a course would make it official. But knowing myself as being a truth seeker and demolishing old belief systems for quite some time, since 2012, I eventually realized that there is a falsity in the astrological sky. And so we're going to get into that more specifically a little later, just my intro for now. But in 2020, the big shift that occurred, I decided to look up and notice the sky with my own eyes for the first time in a long time. And I noticed the misalignment. And so then became my passion and hunger to expose and reveal and align everyone to the true energies. And so I'm very grateful for everyone being here and tuning in with us. This whole call is going to be about that topic in general, so I don't want to say too much now. I'd much rather have Zofia and Liz introduce themselves for now. So that is me. I am an astrologer who was once a Western astrologer, who is now 13 sign true sidereal astrology, which you will get more familiar with by the time this call is over.
Thanks, Steph. Liz, do you want to go next?
Sure. I am Liz. I'm originally from Philadelphia, and I have just been exploring true sky astrology since I lived on Maui, and I was living on Mount Haleakala, and I was on the slope of the mountain, and I could see everything. I could see the Milky Way. I could see every constellation with my own eyes, just walking around in my yard at night. And I really started to notice how it was not aligned with what everyone was saying on Instagram and on the internet and, you know, my charts and all these things. And it just felt, and everybody would get so mad when I would be like, it's really not there. Like I would show a picture on my phone, and there was just like a lot of anger and resistance to what's happening before our eyes. And, you know, I kept getting this message of like the emperor's new clothes, right? Like we're not looking with our eyes, and we're believing what the masses are saying without actually opening our eyes up. And I always feel like if the astrologers, the astronomers who created these charts to begin with saw that we weren't still using our eyes to look at the sky and that we were just following an old ass chart, they would be flabbergasted. They would be like, where did we go wrong? Like, what has everybody forgotten? And it's really about that disconnection from trusting ourselves and trusting our eyes. And yeah, so this is, and then I've been looking for an astrologer who did true sky, and it's been a freaking journey to find that. And I found Steph, and Zofia and I have been sharing this together and kind of on this journey of unlocking and reactivating. It's not even connection or new, you know, it's really reconnecting with the deepest parts of ourselves. And when we realign with the new, ancient, old, already astrology within us, it is like everything clicks into place, and we get to move forward with like this new foundation that feels right from the inside out. And this is the work I do in my work as well as like a mentor and a guide. And this is just a big piece of the puzzle for everyone. And I just think it's really important for us to remember.
Yeah.
Story.
Thanks, Liz. And I'm Zofia. Oh my God, this is like so distracting for me. So I'm Zofia, and I am, well, my journey began, let me just admit that person. My journey began a long time ago. And I would say now my journey of indoctrination began when I was 9 years old in the summer of 1983. And I spent the summer with my mum and one of the top UK astrologers of the last few decades in her home, learning one-on-one about Western astrology. And as a young, very curious child, I just absorbed it all, and it imprinted me in a way that not necessarily negatively, it actually really opened my eyes to the cosmos and that connection. However, now I know through my exposure with Liz and her introducing me to Steph, what the implications of that truly are. And in my own work as a frequency medicine alchemist and womb awakener, working with women and reconnecting them with their power center, this really, for me, feels like it goes hand in hand, especially with the 13th sign that was, I don't know what word I want to use here, but was pushed out for so many reasons. So I think it's about awakening that, which we'll talk about later on. And I just feel so like just very blessed to have access to this information and to have been awakened. And you know, it's a really, it's a powerful activation that's available there for people if they want it. So that's a bit about me. And
Zofia, do you want to share how your chart changed, your sun, moon, and your rising?
yeah. So my chart did change dramatically. And I have always been sun in Aries, moon in Sagittarius, and Capricorn rising. And now I'm still in some resistance to what my true sky natal chart is, just because of my own ideas about particular signs. But my sun is in Pisces, my moon is in Orefice, which I fucking love. And my rising sign is in Sagittarius, and then some other things have switched as well, which, you know, it all feels really good to me and really just has like clicked, something's like clicked into place. And I now feel like I can walk the rest of my journey here on earth as a human being, really like in true alignment. And that's what I want. And I think that's what we all really want. I think everyone that's here, whether they're conscious of it or not, wants that too. So that's what happened for me. How about you, Liz?
I went from being a Leo sun, Libra moon, Libra rising, to a Leo sun, Virgo moon, Virgo rising, which is very, very different energy. And I used to feel like, or I would represent myself as like, oh, I'm really ungrounded, or like, I'm just really airy. And that's why like, I'm not organized. And I had this like illusion of who I was. And it never really felt like it fit, but I like fit myself into it because I was like, well, that's what my chart says. And like, everybody reads it and they tell me the same thing. And then I remember saying that to my cousin one time, and she's like, you are the most grounded person I know. Why do you say that all the time? And I was like, why do I say that? And I was like, oh, I was told that that's what it was. I'm like fire and air. I have no earth in my chart. And I went from being fire and air to I have a ton of earth in my chart now. And it like literally the day after I had my chart read, I was like folding all of my clothes and putting them away and like organizing and having a date book and like all these things. And it was like, it felt like the most natural thing to do. And it wasn't forced and it didn't feel, and I mean, you know, it's our own programming, right? No matter what, I guess this could be a new program of like, okay, I'm going to run the organized program now, but it just felt so much more in my skin than this thing that I was trying to fit into. And yeah, I mean, talk about being grounded and having alignment. And I think, you know, I think just our sun, moon, and rising, I think that's the thing that we identify the most with without really understanding full charts, not being astrologers. So just seeing how those can shift so immensely with this is like, it's mind blowing. So I'm so excited to share all that. And Steph, how did yours change?
So I went from being a Cancer sun. I was extremely identified with Cancer sun. That was like my whole essence. And I had a Sagittarius moon and a Leo rising. And so cosmically realigning my chart to match the true sky, to match the astronomical positions. It turns out I was born under a Gemini sun. And I was in total rejection to this at first because my own sister is a Gemini. And so I didn't want to, first of all, step on her energy and feel like I was trying to remove something. And so I was pushing it off for a while. And something that I realized is that even though the energy in your chart is slightly displaced, and I'm going to, of course, go over why, it seems to shift just the correct amount into place, almost like You didn't know it fit perfectly until it fit perfectly. A lot of times we can adapt and make things work. And there is a collective conscious energy that does basically send us into these loops, matching these energies. And so we will fall into these behaviors. And so what this shift did for me is realize that I did have this air quality. I thought I was missing air, in contrast to you thinking that you were missing earth, Liz. And once I realized that my sun was in this air element, I was no longer in rejection to it. I still kept some of my water that I was highly identified with as my moon shifted from Sagittarius to Scorpio. So I got to keep the water element. I no longer felt so pushy. And I also got to keep my Leo rising. You can tell by the mane. The lion's mane was true the whole time, right? So as I began to surrender this resistance to the idea that I was a Gemini, not a Cancer, I began to actually open up a lot more, realizing that information and communicating information has always been a specialty of mine. Retaining facts, sharing, spreading, wanting to get other intellectuals in my life. And this was something, because I was identifying with Cancer so wholeheartedly, I was in resistance to letting people in. And so this really did shift the fact that I realize now the energy that is more true to me, though I had been resistant, which is totally normal. And now that I surrender into it, it feels like I am stepping into my highest alignment. And that is something that I feel that shifting from tropical Western astrology, which is outdated, to this astronomically correct 13 sign true sidereal astrology has shifted me from a lower dimensional programming to a higher dimensional liberation. And so ladies, if you are ready, I'm about ready to start getting into what is 13 sign true sidereal astrology.
Yes, let's get into it right now.
Okay, perfect. So I would love if everyone in the chat would just let me know at the moment, what type of astrology are you already familiar with? Is it Western, tropical? Is it Vedic? Is it sidereal? Is it sky astrology? Let me know in the chat. Western, Vedic. I'm sure most people are very familiar with tropical Western, yeah. It's the most known, right? When you see astrologers posting on Instagram or posting on YouTube, it's typically a Western type of perspective. And so, yes, the true sky. And so basically, we are so used to seeing this type of energy. And what tropical Western astrology is based on is it is actually based on the seasons. It actually doesn't have anything necessarily to do with the stars behind it in real time. How is that possible, right? Well, what does sidereal mean? Sidereal means of and relating to the stars, whereas tropical Western is associating with the seasons here on our Earth. And we're not seasons, we're people. So we should be aligning with our celestial energy as it seems fit. So if anyone has, I would love for you to follow along. If not, we'll send you the recording and you can check these positions later. But if you have a sky tracking app on your phone and you're not already using your phone for the Zoom session, I would love for you to check in real time. I would love this. So according to 8 o'clock tonight, which for me Eastern, so when this call started, Western tropical astrology says that the sun is about halfway through Leo. If anyone who has a star tracking app, I would love for you to check and tell me, does the sun look like it is midway or halfway through Leo? Yeah, it's actually not almost in Cancer, it's almost out of Cancer. So it's only just beginning Leo season. But as you can see, we are not midway through the lion. We have hardly even entered the lion. Matter of fact, right now, according to the true sky, what you just looked at, the sun is at its last degree, Cancer, about to enter 0 degrees Leo. Therefore, it is a cusp. And cusp energy we give within 3 degrees before we really say it's one sign or the other. We use the midway points in 13 sign true sidereal astrology. Here's another exercise. Check this out. What's going to look for the moon right now? Anyone with the sky tracking app? Western astrology says that the moon is in Sagittarius. I would love for someone to tell me, where is the moon right now? This is a tricky one. This is a tricky one. Yes. Welcome to the 13th sign. Zofia, this is your natal moon position. So this is energy is going to feel real comfortable to you. But for everyone else, our moon, our emotional body is in the forgotten sign. And here we can see on live on this true sidereal call in divine timing, because I did not check this beforehand, the moon present with your own eyes positioned in Ophiuchus. As you can see, Scorpio drops out below the ecliptic, and we actually spend about 12 days solar wise in Ophiuchus, the 13th sign energy, the serpent bearer, as you can see. So I'm just going to run through where the true sky alignments actually are. I'm not going to have everyone checking again, but just so that you know the energy that is here tonight, I want to familiarize you with energetic cosmic portals that you are underneath right now, because that's what astrology is all about. Awareness to where you are, what celestial gates are open, and what elemental energy is influencing you. And as you saw with just the sun and moon, if you're working with Western astrology, you are not accessing the true cosmic portal gates. You are not actually working with the true energy in real time. And so right now, Mercury is in Leo. I'm not writing degrees here, but Mercury is in Leo. Venus is at the cusp of Gemini, entering Cancer soon. Mars is at the last degree of Aries, entering Taurus tomorrow. Jupiter is retrograde in Pisces, Saturn is retrograde in Capricorn, Uranus and North Node conjunct together in Aries, not Taurus. That's a big deal right now. Neptune retrograde in the very beginning of Pisces. You'll see Western astrology says that it's towards the end of Pisces. And Pluto retrograde at the last few degrees of Sagittarius. And so that is the true celestial positions. And yes, we all have this recording, so you can go back and check if you need to, but definitely keep your eye on the sky. So now the question becomes, and I have notes or else I will rant all day. Does anyone have anything to add for that before I move forward? Okay. So why are they different, right? Why is Western astrology and other astrological perspectives not showing us the sky? What is the difference here? How did this misalignment occur? And so type a 333 in the chat if you have heard of the precession of the equinox. These are good problems to have. Okay, so you have heard. So for those who have not, anyone who has not, the precession of the equinox is a very slow backwards motion that the sky appears to make over time. This is not something that we notice our day-to-day life. This is something that's not even really perceivable in your lifetime. This is how slow the sky actually moves backwards. It moves about 1 degree every 73 years.
Hey, it's your friend Simeon. You forget about me. Call me.
We will just make sure you're muted, please.
Yeah, let's just send a message. Hold on. Okay, so the precession of the equinox. This is that backwards drift. This is that 1 degree every 73 years. Even if it did move in your lifetime, 1 degree is not something very visible. But since the conception of astrology as a practice, not just as a stargazing, this has made quite a difference on our night sky. So this is about 23 to 24 degrees shifted. It doesn't seem like a lot, but it's basically shifted out of one entire sign. That's how much it's moved backwards. The other difference is that the actual sizes of the constellations. Now, has anyone, I know that you mentioned you've done Vedic. Vedic is considered a sidereal astrology, if I'm not mistaken. I'm pretty sure all Vedic is considered sidereal. But here's what separates true sidereal from sidereal, besides the inclusion of the 13th sign. So in Western and even Vedic astrology, the signs were divided into even 30 degrees. So 30 solar days. And this was done to match calendars. This was done to divide evenly. And this is not the actual representation of the constellations in the ecliptic. The ecliptic is the path that the sun, moon, and planets travel, and that is the zodiac belt as well. It's 2 names. And so with this, if Vedic astrology moved back 1 sign, but is still measuring an even 30 degrees, that is still not accurate to the sky. And I love to use this analogy. What we've done to astrology was basically turn it into a well-manicured garden. It looks beautiful, it's efficient, it's got a system, but it is not the organic reflection. Think of a forest. It requires no maintenance, there's no boundaries, and yet it is organic and thriving on its own. And so we've created this system, and not us, obviously, but from the past. And this is the system that we've been handed down. And where it was once aligned and true, about 2,000 years later, it now has quite a gap from the truth, from the real energy of the sky. And so I'm going to give you some examples of how big these signs are or how small some others are. Again, everyone assumes that it's 30 degrees. Virgo lays almost perfectly horizontally within this ecliptic belt. It lasts about 48 degrees. That's 48 days, well over 30. And now set that clock backwards 1. So when we think it's Virgo season, it's actually Leo season. And Virgo lasts the entire month of October. Who would have thought, right? That's a big sign. We spend a lot of time within this energy organically, not systematically, not seasonally. And then you look at a sign that is much smaller. We'll bring Scorpio to the table. Scorpio is such a small yet intense energetic window. Scorpio does not last 30 days. As I mentioned before, and you can see with your sky apps, most of the Scorpion's tail drops well below the zodiac belt, meaning the stars, the planets, the sun and the moon, they don't drop down just to get Scorpio. They move across into Ophiuchus and then into Sagittarius. And so Scorpio only lasts about 13 days. That's it. 13 solar days. We're always talking about the sun's path. The moon moves through much quicker. Pluto will move through very, very slowly, but we use the sun to dictate the days. And so it's only 13 days long. And then you move over to Ophiuchus, which is almost exactly as small, about 12 degrees. And so these are such very short, intense windows of time, potent, on purpose, energy packed, not to be expanded and repositioned, but to be honored in alignment with when they fall. As time goes on, as more thousands of years pass, if we don't hand down this information, I say this to astrologers all the time, what happens when the sky is 180 degrees opposite from what we thought it was? Are we still going to be saying it's Aries season on the spring equinox when it's Libra rising? Are we really going to say that? How long do we let this go out of control? And so bringing the information here and now, awakening to the true sky, while it's only about 32 degrees off, only 1 sign, we can catch up now, we can align with the truth, and we can really see what we can get out of this real alignment, what we can get from dropping some of these barriers and having everything be a system, and instead aligning with the flow, the lack of boundaries, the truth that is the cosmos. It's a blending of energies. And so that was basically the 3 versions. Oh, of course, in the 13th sign. So that's the 3 major reasons that separates 13th sign true sidereal astrology from any other perspective. For 1, it's the precession. For 2, it takes the real size. For 3, it's the 13th sign. So all of that makes it different from tropical, Vedic, any other type of astrology that is out there. It is using the real-time astronomy. And I'm going to get into that as well. Astrology and astronomy were once 2 sides of the exact same study. They've long since been divorced, as astronomy has kept up with the actual positions, as that was astronomy's job. The whole purpose of astronomy is the actual numbers and mapping. Astrology is the spiritual understanding, the stories we tell, the energetics we feel through being present in the moment. And they've been divorcing, whereas astronomy becomes a science and astrology becomes a woo-woo. You do it if you're bored. You do it if you're a young girl, you're reading Cosmo. Forgetting that this was once, and still is, but a very deep understanding of where we are, when we are, and how we are. These two sciences, they are sciences, belong together. And again, this type of astrological perspective marries them again. We're not letting this divorce go on any longer. We're bringing in the divine union between the scientific, actual locations and energetics of the sky so that we can keep track of real time, real cycles, real motions going on. And astronomy often laughs at astrology in a sense. If you ask any scientist, they're going to say, oh, because they know, they've been keeping up. You may have even seen headlines back in 2016 talking about Ophiuchus when astronomy papers first published and reincited the memory of Ophiuchus energy. And it resurfaced again in 2020, back when I decided to look up at the sky and notice the shift. So many people then ask me, well, how does this affect the house system? Some people say, should there be a 13th house? I say no. Some astrologers will say, yes, I'd love to hear their reasoning. I'm open to all sorts of perspectives, but I say no because it's based on the sun. And the sun is based on the number 12, not the sky, the sun. 24 hours in a day, divided into 2, 12. There's no reason to add a 13th house. That's just for anyone with an astrology question, that your housing most likely stays the same. Just your signs change. We just are anchoring and positioning now into the true sky positions, not moving the sun. It's still at the same hour of the day. It doesn't matter what sign's behind it. So as I'm going, is there any questions? Am I going too fast? I don't see anyone shaking their heads no, so I'd say we're okay.
Stacey asked the question. She said, does the duration impact the way the energy is impacted? Like Scorpio is so intense, like because it's in there for a shorter time, it's more intense? Or do you feel like that?
You know, I've never actually reflected on that, but in doing so right now, you can kind of see that, right? It kind of makes sense just thinking about how Scorpio is a very deep, dark, and intense window of time. If it truly did span for, let's say, Virgo's duration of 48 days, we might have a lot of people slumping into a lot more depressions, right? So there is a chance that energetically it was a divine thing where there's only a bit of Scorpio energy in the sky. And even then, Ophiuchus comes in and has a similar energy, a little different, and helps kind of balance that out, bringing light to this dark. So that certainly could be true. It's not something I particularly found as like fact, but I can interpret that and I can see its solidity because Virgo being a very reserved sign, taking up the most space, it might need a lot of time to process. Whereas the intensity of Scorpio. So I would say that could make sense, yes, but haven't thought about that before. So thank you for that. So I want to get everyone a little bit familiar with why does it matter, right? So now I just told you all about the sky and it's shifting and this and that. So why does it matter? I mentioned how astrology and astronomy, we want to remarry them. We want this study to be back to the holy glory that it once was and not just an occulted, forgotten science. But also the greatest purpose of astrology is timekeeping. We have the sun who tracks the hours of the day, hence the houses. The moon tracks the months. And you'll see men and women responding differently to their energetic signatures. Men being with the sun, renewing their cycle every day, and women being with the moon, holding on to longer cycles of a 28-day. And that's just one example of how the time is within, right? When we align with this, we can feel the truth. And you look at the sun being the hours, the moon being the month, and then the stars, the seasons changing. The stars in the night sky, we watch the seasons, so a greater cycle. And the last cycle has been forgotten and removed from the collective conscious. And yet we all still remember this, I think. How many people here have heard of the Age of Aquarius? Age of Aquarius, right? There's an old song about it. There's a lot of spiritual communities talking about it. My question to astrologers and even avid stargazers is, how can we achieve the Age of Aquarius if the sun rises in Aries every single spring equinox? How are we going to move through? Because the real dawning of the Age of Aquarius is when the sun rises on the spring equinox over the eastern horizon within the stars of Aquarius. So how can we get there if every year astrologers reset? Think about that. And what did I mention before where women subconsciously, you don't have to think about it, your body's doing it, responds to the moon cycles. Men every day, their energetic levels are the same. They don't deal with the same switches and changes chemically. They respond to the sun. What about all of us being reset on a loop every spring equinox, never allowing an evolution, never allowing progress to be moved, always staying stable to the same 12 cycle loop? Now, astrology is full of cycles, greater and larger, micro and macro. And by removing the macro, we are removing ourselves from the understanding of larger cycles, earthly cycles, collective cycles, societal. All these things fall under the sky's shifting. And if we are unaware of this and subconsciously being misdirected, are we fully present in the now? Can you be fully anchored if you are following an incorrect clock? You're looking at the wrong time. You're going to miss your flight, right? Think about that. You have to be here now, calling all of your essence back to you. And so that is why it matters to not only me, but to everyone who is now rediscovering this truth. It's breaking free of another shackling system. So how does it affect you personally? Personally, your natal chart, right? So that's your celestial blueprint. That's how the stars and the planets were communicating on your day of consciousness entering the earth. The day that you are coming in and taking an imprint of not only everybody in the room, but the cosmos itself, the breath of life, everything you just came from through these gates. This alignment matters to you more than you think. It's an internal shift, like both Liz and Zofia and I mentioned before. It's the smallest little shift that just fixes and plops us right into place. And it feels so good. Even if there's resistance, trust me, sit on it for a little while. You'll realize maybe this is true. So as I wrote here, just want to make sure I don't miss anything. So it's a slight shift in not only planetary, but elemental and archetypal energy that makes a massive difference in how we express and perceive ourselves and the world around us. It aligns us with our highest potential, getting off that loop and moving into energies that we need to be aligned with to be here now. It's our true celestial blueprint and unlocks deeper self-knowing. It removes subtle blockages within our energetic flow. Like Liz, for example, you were saying you didn't feel grounded, yet you couldn't even see that you were the most grounded person anybody knew. So you had a blockage mentally on that was removed. And the same thing happens to everyone else. So for me, it was a blockage on my own communication and ability to share information, holding that back. So we aren't often conscious of these blockages, but this little shift just makes everything feel better. And of course, a deeper personal connection to the sky. As it was, right? Before we were distracted and looking down and light pollution was clouding our eyes and not allowing us to see. We always used to look up. And us humans, we ponder the sky. No other species does this. The astrology is here for us, and we need to be here, visible and present to see it, to anchor it, to decode what is coming, to understand the changes. And so on a larger implication, what does this mean? Collective, societal, environmental. This shift in awareness and alignment breaks collective loops. We can get out of these subconscious traps that we keep our energy looping in. Due to this shift, we can begin to realize where and when we are and tune in, providing better understanding regarding Earth's environmental cycles. A lot of people are very upset with the idea of climate change, but if Earth cycles, timing and everything is shifting, we're shifting, Earth's shifting, everything is moving. We can have a better understanding and adapt more with a lot less panic. And also, this is a whole nother rabbit hole I'd love to get into on a whole nother video, but just to tease you, the idea is our maps are wrong too. This affects how we navigate this Earth. We have no maps of the age of Pisces, and yet that's what we've been in for 2,000 years. If you look at the Tropic of Cancer and the Tropic of Capricorn from the equator, it's supposed to align with the solstice in the summer and the winter solstice. This is all from a northern hemisphere perspective. Just reverse it if you're in the southern hemisphere. And instead, when we are approaching the summer solstice, we're supposed to be saying, oh, it's Cancer season, summertime. We are actually so deep into Gemini that depending on the day that the summer solstice lands on, it can be the last degree of Taurus. Where did Gemini go? How did we move so much and we weren't paying attention? What does that mean? What else can they slip past us? It's our own sky. It's our own earthly cycles. Think about that for a moment. We are almost for the Tropic of Capricorn, which is no longer aligned. Again, it has to match. We are now at the very end of Sagittarius. We are getting very close to it aligning with the galactic center, which is at the foot of Ophiuchus. All of this energetic has shifted. This shifts our environment. This shifts us. This is a grand evidence of the changes that are to come. And here it is embedded in our sky. And what are we doing? Checking an outdated app, checking the ephemeris, checking our astrologers. I was guilty. I didn't know. So I invite everyone here tonight, after you check the sky with your astronomical app, to look around and see and align yourself with the now. There's nothing quite like seeing. Seeing is believing.
That's so
all I got,
powerful,
ladies.
Steph. Steph, that was so powerful. I feel like we all need to like take a minute to just absorb that, because it is the emperor has no clothes.
Mm-hmm.
It really is. Like our
Yes.
maps are inaccurate. The astrology is inaccurate. Like,
Yeah, misaligned for sure. And it still holds some validity, right? Like, we're not going to look at Western astrology and entirely demonize it. And I don't want anyone, if you're an astrologer here or friends with an astrologer, to turn around and tell them, oh my God, how could you be so wrong, right? Like, we've all been deceived. We've all had to wake up out of our distractions, and this is purposely being hidden from us. But what astrology, tropical astrology, was doing and still does accurately is track seasons. It is really good at that. What we want to do is evolve past that. We want to make sure that we are incorporating the larger changes and not just having the same thing line every time, but saying, okay, yes, this is still spring, but can we allow spring to now be at 9 degrees Pisces? Yeah. No longer 0 degrees Aries. Can we adapt to that? Can we incorporate this? And so you can read a Western astrology chart and it can still feel true to you. Your house placements, like I mentioned before, are the same. You're not losing your house placements. You are officially just shifting the sign, the way it's expressed. So I was an 11th house sun, still am. It was expressing through Cancer. It is now in Gemini. The slightest shift just makes all the energetic difference. So even if you were resonating, don't feel like you're not going to still resonate, still going to have some truth, but definitely we want to have everyone start to elevate your perspective to the now and really aligning with what is happening in our current reality.
Yeah. And like just waking up and being here now with what is here now. Yeah, I think we're going to have a Zoom about the maps.
Oh, that would be a lot of fun.
Yeah. So, I mean, we're getting close to an hour now, and I just want to be respectful of everyone's time. So should we look, Liz, do you want to have a look at if there are any questions, or if you do have questions, just put it in the chat and then we can answer them.
And Rob asked, were the constellations created or discovered?
That's a good
both. Kind of both, right?
Yeah, that's a good question, because to a degree, humanity has implied meaning to everything, right? But that's our gift. So that's not wrong. The celestial bodies are up there to capture our attention. Why else would it only capture the human attention? Does anyone see their cat or dog looking up, right? It is us. So the meaning that we've put towards it isn't necessarily an artificial thing. And I do believe that watching the cycles and over time, the meanings and everything, we can recognize patterns, and that's what it's for. And so the energetics can evolve and shift, and they can mean something a little different to every single person. But the overall energetics of it, I do believe, have a validity. I do believe that we've witnessed it for long enough. The humanity's been here long enough to actually accurately not only predict the energetics of these signs and designate energetics to these signs. There is a debate about where the constellation boundaries end, and that's why sidereal versus true sidereal has boundary differences, and that's why Virgo's 48 degrees versus 30. And there's debates about that. But energetics wise, I would say that humans, we didn't quite get it wrong. There's plenty of different interpretations, but you look throughout mythology, you look out throughout different cultures, and there's always the same archetypal energy. And so there's got to be truth to it somewhere within that. But that's a great point.
And every civilization has been acknowledging the sky and
right?
its effect on us. I mean, look at Stonehenge, look at the pyramids, right? Like, they are truly our guidance system. So to keep us out of alignment obviously was on purpose. It definitely wasn't an accident, right?
Oh, yeah.
But also the realignment is not an accident, right? The reawakening, the reconnection, it's all part of like what we're doing right now.
Yeah.
And we can't step into like the age of Aquarius, even if it is in 600 years, like, but it's probably going to take 600 years for people to let go of tropical astrology as like the thing, because it's so deeply ingrained in like society as like, this is the truth. I mean, it's like, it's such a reflection of like the structures in our world right now, and this idea of like crumbling the patriarchy or whatever. And it's like, we can't go in and just like send a demolition crew and explode everything. It is impossible to rebuild that way, right? I mean, we've talked about this ourselves, like people are much more open to rebuilding if they are allowed to like go into their home and like collect their belongings. Like if we just throw grenades in and run away, it's just damaging. It's damaging to people's psyche to lose everything that they thought they were in a moment, right? And so I think the gentleness that we can do this with, and like giving people like hope and excitement about it, about like the rebuilding of something new, instead of just like focusing on the destruction of the old, you know, figured like energetically and astrologically, and also like in our world right now. I think that's just, this is a really big reflection for all of us, I think, just to sit with as this shift begins, and how we can share it in a way that is palatable for humans, so they don't freak out.
I mean, I would say that there is a place for throwing a couple of grenades in.
I know you love a good grenade.
Yeah.
She can't help it. Moon and a fucus.
I agree with you though. You've really got to like create this environment of an environment that lends itself to people opening and being curious. So I think that's really important. And someone has asked here, where can we go for more information on true sidereal?
Oh, yes.
Is there a book you suggest?
So I answered that in the chat, but I'll say it here. So besides myself, of course, someone that I look to for information and has really helped me open my eyes to the shifting sky and helped me through it is Mastering the Zodiac. His name is Ethan Chiminetti. I feel like I always try to say that way more. I'm not good with names, but I know his name is Ethan. And he has great info, not only on his page, but he has a YouTube channel. And yes, of course, me at Starkeeper Astrology. I'm posting as much as I can about the current energies and really putting out, you know, bite-sized information for such a large and chargedly packed shifting perspective for the sky. So I think we're learning every day as we are realizing that the systems that we once held dear, not only just with astrology, but with all the systems. Just a little tidbit for everyone to know, 2024 is going to be big shifts astrologically with the true sky. So be prepared for the dissolving of everything that you once knew. And that includes, again, your astrology, your understanding of the financial system, your understanding of so many things. And so breaking of this one system is really just, again, a microcosm on something so much larger that's occurring, something that's divinely sanctioned. And it is time now that we open our eyes with an open heart and an open mind, less resistance, and say, okay, maybe we didn't know everything. And that's not wrong. I was telling people that the wrong astrology forever. I'm aligned now. And if things change, I would love to align again. And that's the only thing we can do, is allow ourselves to evolve. And that's really this awakening of the sky, is the sky has evolved. Have we?
Yeah, Has the sky has evolved, have we? That's a good question to ask. And there's a couple of people on here that would love to get a deeper reading from you.
Yes.
So,
Yes. So
that-
you can reach out to me at Starkeeper Astrology on Instagram. And then I also have a direct website, starkeeperastrology.com. So it's the same name twice. And I do 15-minute brief readings for if you just want to taste, if you just want to see your sun, moon, and rising shift. And then I also do a full deeper dive for when you're ready, the celestial blueprint, where we really get into the details and specifics in your energetics and how to align best. And I would love for everyone here to get a taste of their true energetics and take a little time to digest it and see how it feels. I would love your feedback as well.
And we'll send out an email with the links for readings and everything. And Steph did mine. I had a 13, I don't know, it was a 13 sign sidereal chart reading, not even a reading. It was like a kind of cut and paste like a year and a half ago, 2 years ago. And even that was different when Steph did it. So I realized that like not everybody is in alignment with like the true sky and like how things are shifting. And so I think hers has been the most astronomically correct that I have experienced so far. And also just like keep watching the sky, you know, there's so many different apps out there too for like sky watching. So I've had a few different ones. I have Night Sky right now, which I absolutely love. It's like really crisp and clean. And yeah.
And Steph, is it possible in just a few minutes to speak to what's happening right now with Sirius and the Lion's Gate?
I'd love to. Thank you for asking. So there is a lot of controversy around the Lion's Gate. And there's an astrologer who really did some deep research. She's not a 13 sign true sidereal astrologer. She does tropical Western, but the research she did on the topic in general is really good information. The Cosmic Space Witch, check her out. I don't agree with her alignments, but I agree with the energy and the information she brought forward in regards to this. So it turns out that the Lion's Gate portal, first of all, the name of it came around only recently in 2012. It wasn't a thing before this in the spiritual community. Second, it has nothing to do with the sun and Sirius aligning. What this is the heliacal rising of Sirius. Heliacal meaning relating to the sun, but we already had the sun align with Sirius back on July 5th. So that's when they were actually in alignment. 14 degrees Gemini is where Sirius is actually positioned. If you were to draw a line for the sky, that's where it lined up. And so this is a heliacal rising, and this entirely depends on your latitude north. This doesn't happen for latitude south. So latitude north. So everyone doing 88, 88, 88, that's only for one latitude. That is for 37 degrees latitude north, also known as the UFO highway. It is an energetic latitude on Earth that has a lot of harvesting energetics and known to be some strange phenomenon going around for that. But you have to know your latitude north in order to know which day specifically Sirius is rising for you. So the dog days of summer actually stem from Sirius. So we've been in a Sirius gateway since it aligned with the sun, starting, like I mentioned, in July 5th. So with July 5th until August 22nd is actually when this massive Sirius gateway dealing with the sun is open. So 88 just became popularized because of the lion's connection to Masonic energies. And again, that doesn't make a lion bad or Sirius bad just because they use it, just because energetics are being using for negative agendas does not make this portal a dark, evil thing. All we're saying right now is to make sure that you use discernment to stay in your alignments and just don't agree to anything you don't fully understand. So, for example, I am close to New York City. That's 40 degrees latitude north. So for me, if you were able to go outside and see pre-dawn, so the twilight sky about 5:30-ish in the morning, right before the sun rises up over the eastern horizon. Again, this is for New York right now. That will be August 11th. So the heliacal rising for me does not fall on 8-8. So if I'm doing an 8-8 portal worshiping for Sirius, I'm not even in alignment with my own sky. And so they get everyone to do the portal on the same day. It's a collective harvesting. It's not necessarily a bad thing if you shield yourself, have awareness, protect your own energy. Again, there's nothing wrong if you're heliacal rising, if you're at 37 degrees north, that's your alignment anyway. All I'm saying is that we need to just take responsibility for our energetics. This is a magical realm. Astrology has been used in occulted spiritual energies for a very long time. None of this is new. We've always done full moon rituals. It's always just important to stay in your integrity, to understand, and to welcome in serious energy within your own permission, right? Allowing it to come into you with your own protection and your own setup. So yeah, group meditations in a sense of being a collective thing, not just at like a yoga studio, but like these collective large things that just get passed around. Always, always, always be a little skeptical, use discernment, but there is nothing wrong in particular with participating in the 8-8 portal.
Okay, thank you.
No problem. I'm sure that was a bit much.
I did just want to share a little bit about what we experienced with Sirius yesterday and how they said that Sirius was the original like star activation that humans had. And when like being starstruck came from looking at Sirius just with your eyes, and you literally would go into a trance. So it's like if we, because of the flashing that it does, and Steph said it goes through like the frequency of every color. It's the only star, right? In the sky that does that. So the ancients, like that's how they connected with Sirius. It was the first star that they connected with. It's like our star lineage as well. So this activation is so much stronger if we actually just go out and look at the sky with our eyes versus in some sort of, you know, collective. I never do collective meditations for many, many reasons, because I don't know who's leading these or who's involved. And I'm like very clear with my frequency of who I allow into it. But if I go outside and connect directly to the stars, there's no interruption. It's me only. So I highly recommend during this time to just go out and look at Sirius with your own eyes and just connect and say, what can you show me? Or what do I need to learn? Or, you know.
And we see Sirius most prominently in northern hemisphere night sky in the winter time. So this heliacal rising, we're not going to see it in the night sky. This is again something where we're seeing it pre-dawn. It's first time returning visibly to our eyes. And just to add to what you said, Liz, Sirius is a full frequency star, full frequency. If you look at it with your naked eyes, just like Liz was saying, the twinkling that it does goes through the entire color spectrum that we are able to see. It's the rainbow star for a reason. When you look at the star Aldebaran positioned in Taurus, it's one of the ones you can see visibly. It's a red star. It's not going through blue, green, yellow. It's not going through those colors. That's its resonant frequency. And so Sirius being not only the brightest, but being the most active, it has always been the star associated with spiritual initiation. It's the one that welcomes us into this mysticism. Sirius is also deeply connected with freedom, liberation. And if you know that the sun was conjunct, not conjunct, they weren't next to each other, but in alignment with Sirius on July 5th, you also know that America signed the Declaration of Independence in July 4th, and there are so many other countries that had their rise up for independence within the dog days of summer window where Sirius is reigning supreme. And so there is an influence occurring all around us, and it is important that we aren't handing our sovereignty over to the lion, who is royalty, who is the hierarchy, and that we keep this energy for ourselves. So that's really the importance of it. You can liberate yourself. What a divine time to have this call, to liberate ourselves from a matrix, a sky matrix that we've been indoctrinated into for so long, and just allow ourselves to have a freedom, to open mind, to make our own decisions, and to protect our own energy. So that's all I have for that.
Thank you, Steph. And I actually came across some footage the other day of Sirius, and I can send the link, and it's literally of Sirius, but it's like it's like a rainbow of colors, just like moving
Yes.
like that all at the same
Yes.
time. It was absolutely incredible.
Yes.
And I'll find that link so that I can share it with everyone.
Yeah, there's a
So
page on
beautiful.
Instagram. I think it's
Oh, you saw it as well?
Oh yeah, and I'm
Yeah,
not gonna
maybe
get
I
into it on
found it
this
for
call.
you.
I'm not going to get into it on this call. It's a whole nother topic. If anyone ever wants to pick my brain, I have an entire different perspective on what stars are, what their purpose is, and their relativity to how far or how close they are. And that's one of the pages who gets this awesome footage of these stars. And it really helped break down another illusion of stars being burning hot balls of gas in a void where gas can't burn.
Yeah. Don't dangle that carrot without sharing more. Yeah.
I promise
want
we
to
will
know
do
as
another.
well. But I think it like, for me, when you said that, it just reminded me of what Liz just said before, which was that when you're looking at the star with your own eyes, that there's something that happens when you do that. And so, yeah, I'd love to delve into that as well. But we should probably dedicate a whole other Zoom for this.
I would love that.
Do we have any more questions?
Rob has a question. Steph, do you want to read that in the chat?
Oh yeah,
I can read it. What is the significance of solar, planetary, energetic geometry independent of relative locations to star configurations?
Hold on. Now
I don't think I understand the question.
What
Yeah,
is
like
the
Steph read
significance
that.
of solar planetary energetic geometry independent of relative locations to star configurations? Rob, do you want to come out and just ask that question with a little more detail? You want to unmute yourself? Are you able to?
Yeah, sorry, banging around a little bit, making some noise, so I've been on mute. Yeah, so in other words, if there were no constellations,
Uh-huh.
what's going on with the geometry in the solar system, and how does that affect Earth and an individual born at a certain time?
Meaning if we didn't associate constellations to them, if they were just independent stars?
Yeah, like, I mean, we have the stories from eons ago, yet the planets still just turn around the sun, exerting their own forces, sort of locally, so to speak. And so it's, what's the significance of that action or those energies?
I'm gonna be honest here. I'm not 100%
and can it,
sure.
can it be okay?
I'm not 100% sure.
Yeah, like, can it be decoupled from the stars?
The energetic, I mean,
So,
we can designate energy to a single star, like for example, Sirius, right? Sirius is a part of Canis Major, but we isolate Sirius because of its importance and relativity to our mythology, to our own human experience. And so if that's kind of what you're saying, yes, there are individual energies contained within the stars. And again, these stars, we don't even have to have within the zodiac constellations. For example, Vega in Lyra has a very potent energy. So a lot of times it's these brighter stars that have captured our attention over time and have significant placements. So for example, Vega, thousands of years to come, as the sky continues to shift, may potentially take the position of the North Star, removing Polaris, and Vega may take that seat. And so there is a shifting going on, and you can look at stars and their energetics, but when you look at Vega, a lot of times it's tied to Lyra and the ancient civilizations and cosmic energies there. But they do have their own energetics. So like we look at the Pleiades, the seven sisters, even though they're seven, they have different names, each one. We have Greek mythology after some of these energies. And so the stories have been handed down. So you can go to a lot of mythology, and I know it's mythology, but we had to hand down stories and energetics somehow, right? All things are handed down through story. And so I believe that if that's what you mean, the individual stars separated from their constellations, they do have energetic influence on us. And if I don't understand any further than that, I apologize that I can't answer your questions as thoroughly as I would like to.
okay.
I hope that helped. I don't know.
So, any other questions? Are we good for now? Just for
I-
now.
Yeah, I don't see any more. So if anyone has any, drop them in the chat real quick.
I was just saying that, like, you know, we assign the meaning to
Yeah.
everything in life, right? Like, we're the ones who gave the stars their meaning in the first place, just our translation of it. And the thing is that it's translated through every different civilization is translating it similarly. So yeah, I think our stories are what give us meaning as well, right? Like we are our own stories, right? What our identity is what we share with the world. And so I think that's the thing, is like what we were saying before about, you know, reconnecting with our internal constellations is how we end up connecting with the sky. So now we get to do that going forward.
Yes. Okay, shall we close? Do you want to close the space?
Yeah.
I
Very
think I've
briefly.
divulged enough.
Thank you guys all so much. Just take a few deep breaths. Notice if you feel any different in your body right now. Notice if you feel new things lit up. Maybe just tiny little seeds planted, maybe irritated, maybe in resistance. Whatever it is absolutely fine. But everything that we talked about tonight and just being in this group will always change how we move forward and how we look at the world. So just keep yourselves open. Explore, be curious. Take a deep breath in. Thank you all for being here so much. So grateful. If you guys have any other questions, you can email any of us. We'll send out another email with links and information, and I'm sure we'll be doing more of these, probably till the end of time, who knows. But Steph and Zofia, I love you. Thank you for
everyone.
doing this together. I know it's needed. And
look up, yeah.
Look
I
up.
was just gonna unmute myself
Ah.
again. Look up, yes.
Look
Look
up.
up.
Start to
Reconnect.
dismantle.
There's nothing quite like seeing with your own eyes here and now is the full activation.
Yeah.
And thank you to anyone who reaches out and books a call with me. I'm so excited to connect with you and share some of this contagious energy of like, oh my God, we're here now.
Yeah.
And the best thing we can do is just to start sharing the true placements. You know, it doesn't have to always be the calling out, but even if you guys just take your apps out every once in a while and just say, oh, this is where this is, you know, it really gets people curious and start questioning. I think the past couple of years have been all about questioning everything, all of the structures. So this is like a whole other structure that we get to, recalibrate. Thank you all so much.
Thank you. Good night, everyone.
Good night.